Joining us now, Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. He serves on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, thank you for being with us. What do you make of that tweet?
Good morning, Allison. Well, first of all, I think it's good news that President Trump is talking to our NATO allies, France and Great Britain, that Nikki Haley is trying to work UN resolution. That's a good thing. I realize Russia's always going to block those, but I think public disclosure is probably the best policy at this point in time. And, quite honestly, we need to verify exactly what happened here. Who, as best we can determine, caused this. I've read reports that the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, Russia's talking about letting them in. Now, are they going to give them full access? I doubt it. But I think probably the best way to handle this at this point in time, seeing as Syria is already moving its military assets around, is rather than a military strike, well, let's find out what happened. Let's really expose for the public the multiple chemical attacks and really start fingering Assad, and then put a lot of pressure on Russia with their complicity at propping up this heinous regime.
Senator, that's quite different than what the tweet says. I mean,
I understand.
Are you comfortable with the tone and style of that tweet when it comes to bombs and war?
I'm not a real fan of the tweeting process here. I think there's a better way of doing this. And again, I'm trying to accentuate the positive that the president is talking to our allies. They're trying to work through the UN and the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. Hopefully we'll get on the ground and try and verify exactly what happened.
I don't know, Senator. I mean, it sounds like what the president is tweeting is quite different than the diplomacy that you're talking about. Here's a new tweet that has just crossed. It says, our relationship with Russia is worse now than it has ever been, and that includes the Cold War. There is no reason for this. Russia needs us to help with their economy, something that would be very easy to do, and we need all nations to work together. Stop the arms race, question mark. Not sure if that was intended. Do you agree that our relationship with Russia is the worst it's ever been now?
Well, it's not where it should be. I've said it repeatedly. I wish Russia were no worse than a friendly rival as opposed to an unfriendly adversary. And what they are doing around the world, including Syria, is not helpful. And so how do you deal with Russia? Well, you have to deal with them with strength and resolve. You have to deal with them through our multilateral institutions like the UN, through NATO, with our allies. We've got to do this as the democracies of the world pushing back on their aggression.
But, Senator, just back to the first tweet, I just want to ask you about one element of it where the president says, get ready, Russia, because they will be coming. Nice and new and smart. He's talking about U.S. missiles. What do you think about alerting the enemy to what's coming?
Well, I didn't agree that when President Trump was signaling what we may do and then delaying until the point where we didn't do it. I think if we're going to strike, we first need to verify exactly what happened so that we are almost certain that we know who's responsible. And then I think we strike without warning. We've given them warning.
I understand.
The world has given them warning that this is unacceptable behavior, use of chemical weapons.
Donald Trump used to say that. You never telegraph your plans to the enemy. He used to hit Barack Obama, President Obama, for that at the time. Why is he telegraphing this?
I can't explain it, but he should follow his previous advice.
You're not comfortable with this tweet that was sent out this morning?
I don't really like reading about it, no.
Will you be sharing that with the White House? Will you be sharing that? Will you be asking, for instance, Mike Pompeo?
I guess I'm sharing it right now, Allison.
Well, let's talk about, I guess you are. Let's talk about that, because I know that you are quite interested in the new possible Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. Do you support him?
Absolutely. Mike Pompeo, I think, is a person of real integrity. He's a brilliant man. Now he's got the experience not only in Congress, but in the military, but now as CIA director. He knows his stuff. I think he'll make an excellent Secretary of State. I hate to see Rex Tillerson go. I thought his redesign of the State Department was appropriate. I think the lack of appointments is somewhat overblown. If you take a look at the trajectory over history, there was a real bump up in both funding and personnel, and Rex Tillerson was just trying to smooth that out. We're just over in South Korea. We don't have an ambassador, but we have a very effective team on the ground there with the Chargé. Again, I've got a great deal of respect for professional foreign service, and those folks are still on the job working for America, and I applaud them.
Do you think that Mike Pompeo can stop the president from doing what people say are these impulsive tweets about something as serious as war?
I don't believe that anybody's going to be able to stop the president from his tweets. It's what he does. It's I guess his style. And so again, what I'm hoping is people provide wise counsel so that regardless of the tweets, we actually do the right things, and that is working with our allies, verify that exactly who caused this before we take any military action.
Yeah, I understand. Listen, I'm responding to your sanguine response to this. But do you think that a tweet like this escalates whatever the tension is with Russia about Syria?
I don't know how you can escalate it much beyond the use of chemical weapons and Russia's support for the criminal regime that is the Assad regime. So I don't know how it gets much worse than that. So again, the civilized world needs to react, but we need to react together, and we need to react with the proper information.
Do you read this when the president says, get ready, Russia, because they will be coming nice and new and smart, that there will be some sort of U.S. missile launch this week?
No, not necessarily. I mean, the president takes a negotiating position on a number of things. And I'm hoping this is just a strong negotiating position to get Vladimir Putin to think twice before he continues to do this, because his second tweet is exactly right. If Russia were to actually behave better in the world, it'd be so much better for the Russian economy and the Russian people. But their aggressive action is harming his country's progress forward. It's a historical tragedy that Putin has taken this path.
Okay, very quickly, next topic. I do want to ask you, because you interviewed Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook yesterday, along with so many other senators. I want to know what you took away from what he told you and whether or not you think that Facebook and other social media needs to be regulated.
I think Mr. Zuckerberg did a good job yesterday. By the way, Senator Hatch, I'm quite certain, knows exactly how Facebook is funded.
It didn't seem like it, Senator,
because
listen, when he asked specifically, where are you getting your funding?
I know. He's trying to clarify the situation for, quite honestly, the public. And that's really what these hearings are about, is begin the process of getting the public to understand exactly what Facebook's business model is. And it is to gain your information, and then they monetize that by selling ads, targeting ads for their advertisers. That's the deal. And my questions were talking about how many of Facebook users actually read the terms of service and the privacy agreement. And the bottom line is nobody reads those.
Right.
Virtually nobody. They just click on it. And so people are voluntarily offering basically all of this information for advertisers to use, and the public needs to understand that, which is exactly what Senator Hatch was trying to clarify in his questioning.
But you don't think that requires more regulation?
Listen, I am concerned about the overall power of a monopoly. I know Mr. Zuckerberg said he's not one. He's really close. And the power they have, for example, with political campaigns, if they are completely even, every political campaign uses Facebook. Mm-hmm. What if Facebook tips the balance in one direction or the other?
Well,
that's
the very
legitimate question. It's a legitimate, and Senator Cruz offered that question about sites that have been taken down that were more conservative versus liberal. So again, I think there are many legitimate questions. Yep. This is just the first round, but I think actually the hearing was quite well at raising a lot of these issues. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of questions that still need to be answered.
Senator Ron Johnson, thank you very much for being on New Day.
Have a good day.
You too, Chris.
All right, so